Hello, everybody. It's Tuesday night. It's 7 o'clock, and we are live. Hello, everybody. It's Tuesday night. It's 7 o'clock, and we are live. Welcome to detox. I'm your host, Veronica Brockwell, and I'm so glad to be back. I took a month off, much needed month off, and we're back live tonight, and I'm so excited to be here. I didn't realize how much I loved doing the show until I took the time off. So anyway, we're back, and we're back with our favorite doctor. He is a chiropractic physician, a functional medicine practitioner, and a certified inflammation and detoxification specialist. And his name is Dr. Michael Wild. And tonight we are going to talk about detoxing. So I'm going to bring Michael on. And there he is. Hi.
Hello there.
Hello there.
Good to be back.
Well, it's kind of funny because you were my last guest. I had a whole lineup.
Well, where have you been? Are you going to tell us where you've been?
I know. So, and I had to cancel every single week. So I am actually going to share something that no one, well, a few people know, but not that many people know. And Michael does not know. And I'm going to tell him right now. So do you remember on our last show, we read some medical results?
Yes.
And there was one specifically about omega-3 fatty acids. What was that test? I don't even remember. I'm so sorry. I didn't have a chance to go grab it.
It's the cellular health and inflammation test.
Right. And so that night you were explaining to me all the things that could happen with that, the fact that I didn't have enough omega-3s because you said I didn't really have a lock on my door.
Correct.
So we were talking, and the whole time we were talking, I wanted to cough. And I thought, okay, first, you can't do that. Second, okay, you're just getting in your own head and this isn't real, right? And I felt fine. I just had a really dry throat. You proceeded to tell me that I had a good chance of getting a moderate to severe case of COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting this dry cough, trying not to cough, thinking, oh my gosh, Veronica, you're being ridiculous. There's nothing wrong with you. Over the next few days, I started getting sicker and sicker and sicker. By Friday, I passed out in the emergency room, and I was in a hospital with COVID-19. X-rays, blood tests, swab tests, everything confirmed it. IVs, steroid inhalers, all sorts of stuff. I was very sick. Not a severe case, but I was very, very sick. And you told me this could happen.
Well, I wish I wasn't predicting that, but wow.
I was sick, and it was interesting. The second week was worse than the first week. And the minute I got sick, like right away, I just, stayed in my house. I didn't leave my house because I was worried. I pretty much had almost every symptom. It was, I think you can kind of even still hear it a little bit because I sound a little bit different, but that was a month ago. So,
wow.
You were right. Your test was accurate, 100%. And if I can tell anyone that's listening right now, these tests that Michael has that you can get on his website, which I will put up here, they're preventative. It will tell you ahead of time what you need to work on. And I'm just grateful to you that I learned all of this, and I already started making changes, though, however, it was a little too late, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to let that happen, are we?
No, no. So there you go. But
Wow.
tonight, I know. So I know you don't even know what to say, right? You're like, oh gosh, I'm sorry. Anyway, but we're not here to talk about that anymore tonight. Tonight, we're going to talk about detoxing.
Yes.
So, what is detoxing?
So, different definitions depending upon who you ask, but the general consensus is what we're trying to do is assist the body's elimination of toxins, right? So we all live in a very, very toxic world, whether you realize it or not. And each person's exposed to thousands of toxins every day coming from the air in your home, the cleaning products you use, especially for women, the makeup you put on your face, things in your clothing, off-gassing from carpets, toxins in our paint. We're surrounded by it.
Right.
So it's impossible not to be absorbing toxins. And your body, thank God, is designed to help you filter, neutralize, and eliminate those. The problem is we have become such a toxic world that we're bringing in many times more than our body was ever designed to actually tolerate and process on its own. So just making numbers up, if your body's designed to handle 100 items an hour and you're giving it 1,000, there's going to be a problem, right?
Yeah.
So those toxins have to go somewhere, and your body, in its innate wisdom, the genius you were born with, has systems that say, how do I save the vital organs? How do I save the brain from damage from these damaging toxins? So what it does is it tries to kind of control them by enveloping them. I'm trying to say enveloping them.
It's like me with detoxification.
There you go, right?
That's like my word I have trouble with, yeah.
You got to remember, I'm at the end of a long day. I've worked with 50 patients today, and now I have dogs wanting me to scratch their backs, right? But so your body sequesters them, the majority of them, in fat globules and stores them away under the surface of your skin. So one of the main reasons why we gain excess fat that we can't get rid of easily is because we're storing those toxins. And your body won't release them very easily unless it's prepared to do so, because that'd be more damaging, more dangerous, right? So, but we also know some of those toxins escape. They get past that system because we're overloaded. And they make it into your cells. They make it into your brain. And that's where they do long-term, low-level damage that leads to chronic diseases like dementia and Alzheimer's and heart disease and autoimmunity and diabetes and cancer. So what we're going to talk about tonight is the importance of detoxing at a certain level. Yes, and by the way, this is part of the Dr. Wild and Ralphie show. Sorry.
Hi, Ralphie.
He's got to be in my lap every time we do this, or else he has a little fit.
We love Ralphie.
He's a good boy. So we're going to talk about why it's important to detox at different levels, and how to really go about doing that effectively and efficiently and not break the bank.
All right. Yeah.
You and I were talking for a minute right before we went on. You were saying that there's a lot of talk. You hear friends talking a lot about detox, and there's a lot of stuff done online, and we're just not sure. Are people doing the right thing? Are they doing enough? Are they doing it safely? Right.
Right. Exactly. I mean, there are all different programs out there, and I just have a lot of questions, and maybe they're all fine. I have no idea, but I feel like I'd like to talk to somebody about it that actually is a specialist in this arena.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any particular question you want me to start with, or you want me to just roll with it?
I actually do have a question.
Okay.
Talk to me about juicing.
Okay. So juicing can be very beneficial because you can get a lot of nutrients from a lot of fruits and vegetables into a small package and then consume it rather than taking the time to eat all that. Now, there's something to be said for eating, okay, versus juicing. Just the act of chewing, of moving your mouth, secretes certain enzymes to break the food down better than if you just drink it.
Okay.
So I actually recommend that when you're drinking your shake, chew it.
So maybe leave some chunks in there.
Yeah, it's real important actually. Yeah. It's really important. I know there used to be the old kind of juicers that would extract all the pulp and the fiber so you could discard it. Well, that's actually part of the most important part of the juice.
Okay.
You want the pulp, you want the fiber, so that your body is able to metabolize not only the nutrients, but to more slowly break down the sugar that's contained in that juice. So, and that's one of the reasons why I just don't drink juice, because most of the juice you get has all that fiber removed. It's really just sugar water.
Well, and that
You know?
was my other question too. You're talking about the sugars. Carrots, for example, they're pretty high in sugar, right?
Right.
So
Now,
people
raw
are
carrot
putting
has
like whole carrots in there. Is that okay?
yeah, because the carrots, so your vegetables in general obviously have less sugar than fruits do. We
Okay.
can tell just by their sweetness, right?
Right.
So you want to juice when you're juicing, you want to do mostly veggies. And there's some veggies that are more powerful in the detoxification arena, some of which you probably don't want to put in your smoothie, like garlic and onions are excellent for detoxification. I don't know if too many people want to put those in their smoothies, right? But you want to eat those things, right? Absolutely do. And we'll talk more about that in a minute about why biochemically. But even things like cucumbers and celery have detoxification benefits to them. So you want to get those in, even though they don't have a lot of flavor, they have important aspects to them to help for the detoxification process. And you want to add berries for their fiber and flavor. You want to keep your fruit kind of down. So I remember that, I was hanging out with a friend once and they're like, oh man, I'm doing great. I'm making myself a green smoothie. And half that smoothie was mango and papaya because it tasted so good. I'm like, well, you just took a good thing and kind of made it bad, because if you're actually eating that mango or papaya, you may only eat a couple of pieces. But now in your smoothie, because you're condensing it down to nothing, you put like 8 pieces in there, right? So now it's a boatload of sugar that's defeating the purpose of many of the detoxification ingredients and actually interfering with their biochemical process in your body.
Okay.
So I'm not saying you can't use any fruit, but just a little, right? Mostly veggies, right? Mostly veggies. And if you can handle it, throw in the garlic and the onions.
And let's be clear, there's a difference between a smoothie and juicing.
True, right?
Right?
So the terms can be used interchangeably by some people, right? But yes, so a smoothie, generally we're adding stuff to. So
like
when
a
I
banana.
make a smoothie, right? Well, I'm saying smoothie because when I make a smoothie, I'm juicing veggies and adding it to crushed ice to make it more of a shake consistency. And I call that a smoothie. If you go to most of your smoothie places, it's mostly fruit, maybe some veggies thrown in there. Doubtful they're organic. And here's what we got to remember. What's the source? So if you're putting fruits and vegetables that are covered in toxins and pesticides and herbicides into your juicing, you're not really helping yourself. You're concentrating more toxins.
Right.
So make sure the source of these nutrients are organic, so they're not sprayed with the pesticides and herbicides, and they're grown in soil that's been prepared for quite a long time to have a high nutrient density that gets sucked up into that plant, so you can then ingest that. Because you don't want something that looks pretty but doesn't have the nutrients in it and is coated in poison.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So you have to think about these things, and when you go to your, hopefully if it's a good detox bar, a good juice bar by you, they're going to have organic ingredients. But I would ask that question. Okay.
Sure. Absolutely.
So if you go to Smoothie King, you're not getting organic. I'll tell you right now.
No.
Right. And then they're trying to make it better by, well, we'll add a shot of powdered protein, and they're giving you powdered protein from maybe casein or whey from a cow that was fed grains sprayed with pesticides and herbicides and shot with antibiotics and hormones. So you're getting concentrated crap.
Right. So you're not detoxing at all when you start adding those things. You're just
It's probably worse.
Compounding the problem. So we're understanding now what detoxing is. So what are we detoxing?
Okay.
In our body?
So a lot of people say, I hear a lot from my patients, I just did a liver detox. And I said, oh, that's awesome. How'd you know your liver needed to be detoxed? Right? Your liver is a detoxification organ. So what do you mean you did a liver detox? You actually took your liver and wrung it out like a sponge and got rid of the toxins in your liver? How'd you do that?
And you know they suffered for a month doing it too.
Right.
You just crush them.
So I think what we really are trying to say is we're trying to assist the liver in its detoxification's ability. Right? Because the liver doesn't need to be detoxed. The liver is self-detoxifying. All right? But we can help the liver by lowering our toxic burden so it doesn't have as much to do, or we can supply it with the nutrients that it needs to do the detoxifying. There's actually biochemically, there are different phases to detoxification. And I'm not going to get into the details because it's just a lot of complex mumbo jumbo that you don't really want to know. But you want to understand there are steps that are involved.
Okay.
First of all, the toxins come in and they have to get transported to the organs and glands of detoxification, which are primarily the liver and kidneys. But we also know that the organs of elimination are involved with this. After it goes through the detoxification, it has to get the heck out of your body, right? Mm-hmm. So it's our liver and our kidneys, but also our intestines, our blood, our lymphatic system, and our lungs, right? Our lungs are expelling in our breath a lot of toxins. That's why I have major concern about being told to wear a mask 24/7, because you're blocking oxygen, recirculating the toxins your body just got out and breathing them right back in, when there's not been any study, not one, that showed that was truly beneficial in blocking any virus. Not one. So I was very concerned about that whole concept, right? And I wore a mask when I was in public places out of respect for others and their fear and concern. Yeah. But I took it off the second I could. And if someone asked me why I wasn't wearing it, I'd say, if you really want to know, I can share with you the 800 research studies I went through to look for anything at all that shows me this is doing what they say. Couldn't find one. So that's a topic for a whole other day, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, little tangents. I do go off on tangents. Just redirect me anytime you feel the need.
That's okay. You needed to talk about it.
Okay.
Okay.
So we can assist the liver. We can assist the kidneys. We can assist the bowels. So sometimes we do, like we'll call it a gut detox because we did a colon cleanse, right?
Yeah.
And that's too. And that might be in the form of an enema or a colonic or using supplements or eating certain foods that help flush our bowels a little bit more. And that's actually certainly beneficial, right? Just helping the body's processes, get things moving along. A lot of the stuff we tend to eat tends to not get broken down really well because most people don't have really fully functioning digestive systems. Mm-hmm. That's one of the reasons why digestion is foundational in my practice and correcting for someone. When someone comes to see me, regardless what they're complaining about, I always look at their digestion. Because if you're not getting nutrients in and broken down and absorbed in your cells, and then the digestive system is also the elimination system, so if you're not getting the waste products and the toxins out the other end, we have a problem, right? And your body is not going to function well if one or the other or both those things aren't working. So we have to support digestion. We have to support detoxification. So the first thing is getting it to those organs and glands. Then the liver, let's talk about liver. The liver has to neutralize those toxins, right? So they're coming in a very poisonous form. Well, it has to stop that. So it's actually going to chop those toxins up into smaller fragments at first, which actually makes them temporarily even more toxic. And then it's going to use biochemical methods to neutralize them, okay? And then it's going to package them for excretion. And in the case of the liver, the packaging then puts those toxins into something called bile. And your liver then secretes the bile into another organ you have called the gallbladder. And the gallbladder is basically a balloon that holds the bile until it's time to get it out of the body. Now, the bile doesn't just contain those toxins. The bile also contains enzymes made by your pancreas and by your liver to break down your food so you can absorb the nutrients that are in that food. So enzymes are imperative to every aspect of life in your body. Just about every cellular function depends on enzymes one way or another. Mm-hmm. And the same enzymes that are used to break down our food and take the nutrients out of them to feed our cells are the very same enzymes that our immune system uses to attack and break down an enemy.
Right.
So we have a certain number of enzymes or a certain pool of enzymes that get torn in two different directions. Do I help you digest and absorb your food, or do I digest and absorb an enemy? Right? And a big problem we have in our bodies today is our enzymes are being depleted. Why is that? Because our food doesn't contain the enzymes naturally like it used to. Organically grown food contains, for the most part, its own enzymes to break it down once it gets in your body. So your natural enzymes from your body can be then focused mainly on immune function. But if we start eating food that's grown in crappy soil and it's been irradiated to kill bacteria. It's been pasteurized and flash heated to kill bacteria. That also destroys the enzymes. And then we cook it, which also destroys the enzymes. And we cook it really fast in a microwave, which destroys even more enzymes. Right. So we're getting a lot of food that doesn't have the ability to be broken down. So now that comes into our body, and our digestive system says, okay, I'm sorry, immune system, I need those guys over here. And so we pull the digestive enzymes over to break down our food. So part of what I do when I work with people is I often encourage them to use extra digestive enzymes while I'm working with them, so their enzymes can be devoted towards healing rather than eating, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of what I do as well. And I think I mentioned to you last time, I was kind of excited because I come out with my own supplement line, and that is an enzyme-based supplement line. So every one of the 25 supplements is heavy in enzymes for particular purposes. Enzymes to reduce inflammation, enzymes for digestion, enzymes for hormone balance, enzymes for immune function. So there's a lot of different things that those are involved with in different ways. But enzymes, bottom line, enzymes are really important. Without them, you're dead. Okay. So our body is going to detoxify using enzymes. So it's real important to help support that system. And a lot of those enzymes come from certain foods. And we were talking about garlic and onions, and they contain something called sulfur, right? Which is a mineral, which works with the enzymes to really help this process of detoxification. Other vegetables like broccoli and cauliflower and what we call the cruciferous vegetables. Those are the ones that basically look like a tree, right? So it looks like a stem and a tree top. Broccoli, cauliflower, asparagus, right?
Yep.
So cruciferous really means cross. And if you look at a broccoli flower head under a microscope, the florets are tons of tiny crosses. That's where cruciferous comes from. But the whole plant looks like a tree, so it's kind of easy to pick those out, right? Well, those particular ones are very high in something called methyl groups. And methyl groups are extremely important to your body's ability to detoxify, but methylation is involved in over 400 different processes in your body to ensure normal function of your cells and optimal health. But detoxification is a big one. So you need these methyl groups and these sulfur groups that come from these different foods. And in things like garlic and onions, it's called allicin, is where this actually comes from. And those will help give your body the building blocks to get these processes done. So it's really important to have these things in our diet, or else we're really going to be in a state where we're not going to be able to detoxify nearly as well. And you may have heard some people talk about the process of methylation, because a big thing people become cognizant of is that we can have certain genetic defects or predispositions, something called the MTHFR gene. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but in the functional medicine world, a lot revolves around that. There's something called the COMP gene as well, and these have to do with your ability to methylate. So a lot of people say, hey, I've got those bad genes, I don't methylate well, so I naturally don't detoxify as well, right? And then so certain doctors will try to help them kind of bridge that gap that they have there to be able to methylate better and be able to detoxify better. A little aside from that, anyone who's listening, if you've ever been told that you have that gene, that does not mean that you have a problem with methylation. It means you have a possible chance of having a problem with methylation. So remember that genes are basically a blueprint, and they are a very strong suggestion by your body of what should or should not happen. But it's not the way it's always going to go. And different exposures to stresses of your life, physical stresses, emotional stresses, which change hormones, chemical stresses like toxins, will determine which genes actually turn on or turn off, which is called gene expression. And that's what we talk about when we discuss epigenetics. I know we've talked a little bit about that before, I think. And so that's how that all revolves around it. And so by eating these foods that have these good things in it, you're actually helping the good genes for detoxification turn on and keeping your defective genes, because we all have some, turned off so you can do a better job. So when I look at someone for methylation, I don't test them for the MTHFR gene. I test them through a process to see, are they able to methylate, regardless of what their gene says.
What is the process for that test?
So it's actually a urine test that tells me if you can convert one amino acid into another, because you need a methylation to do that. right? And it revolves around an amino acid called methionine. So if I see you able to change that into something else, I know you're methylating. It's the only way it can happen. So even if you have that propensity to have that gene, your body's figured it out. Okay?
Is that a test that you can order?
Yes. So that's
Okay.
something people can order right through me.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
great. So they don't actually have to go to your office. That could be a
No.
test they could
No,
have
that's something
shipped
that
to them.
we actually, because it gets done by a specialty lab, and we ask you to do a sample over a number of hours anyway. So you
Okay.
take, so it's something we give you to take home, or we mail out to you,
All
and
right.
you do that test kit home. You actually mail it to the lab. It comes with a package to do that. Then I get the results, much like we did for your cell inflammation test,
Right.
right?
Okay, so
Okay.
we've been talking about what detoxing is, and we've talked about the foods that support that. So kind of getting back to what we were talking about earlier, there are all these different detox diets going on
Right.
right now, and
Right.
some of them are 10 days, some are 24 days, some are 30 days, some are 60 days. How long, in your opinion, does it take to really detox your body?
So it depends on what your goals are.
Okay.
Okay. So you can do something that's beneficial in as little as 2 weeks. But if you want to do it right, probably 12 weeks.
Okay.
Okay. And let me explain what do it right means.
Okay.
All right. So the fundamental difference here is all those things that you're talking about are all what we call downstream detox.
Okay.
And that means that they support those organs and glands of elimination. So they're helping the liver, helping the kidneys, helping the bowel, right? They're probably not doing a lot for lymph, blood, or lungs because most of these systems don't. But it's not a bad idea to help the liver, kidneys, and bowels,
Sure.
right? But that is very fundamental, right? So that is the lowest level of supporting detoxification. So the way I describe it to my patients is we all think our body is a temple. So imagine your temple has multiple floors, right? And imagine the toxins are building up in the toilets in that temple to the point that every toilet is clogged on every floor. And you're starting to notice that, hey, my temple runneth over with crap. I'm not feeling so great. Maybe I'm not sleeping as well. I'm a little foggy headed. I don't feel so well. I have fatigue is a big symptom of this, right? I'm getting bogged down. Maybe I'm getting more frequent colds. There's lots of different symptoms of toxicity, but those are more common ones. Can't sleep well. Not comfortable when I eat. I bloat really easily. A lot of fatigue. I just don't feel the energy. I know it's exercise, but I just can't even do it. So these are a lot of the symptoms of toxicity. Well, first thing you want to do is you think, I'm going to run around, I'm going to flush the heck out of those toilets. Well, that sounds all good and dandy, except if the plumbing was clogged, and that's why those toilets got backed up in the first place, now you're going to have an even bigger problem. And a lot of the things that you're describing that people are doing online are flushing the toilets without ever checking the plumbing. Right? And so a lot of people say, yeah, I did a detox and I felt like crap. That was good, right? My body was getting it out. I'm like, no, you were dumping it and recirculating it because it had no way to get out. And when you recirculate it, you reabsorb it. Okay? So downstream detox refers to the toxins that are accumulating within the bowel. The toxins are in your bloodstream, and you're helping to clear those out. And that's important, but we got to go beyond that. And before we even do that downstream detox, we got to check the plumbing, right? So when someone does a detox with me, I've created something called my complete cellular detox. It's a 12-week program. And the first step is support your plumbing, right?
Yeah.
And that takes 2 weeks all by itself. And in that stage, I have a eat this, not that, drink this, not that formula to follow, as well as very specific supplements to take that support your liver, your kidneys, your lungs, your blood, your lymph, and your bowels. You've got to support all the organs of elimination, because if you're going to get into an effective detoxification process and you're going to start really flushing those toilets, you better hope the pipes are clear. Okay?
Exactly.
And so all those things are your pipes. So we take 2 weeks to do that. And then we do start with downstream detoxification. Let's support pulling those toxins more efficiently and effectively out of my bowels and out of my bloodstream and out of maybe the fat cells it's been stored in. Okay? But then once I'm done with that, which takes a minimum of 4 weeks, okay, then I want to go upstream. And this is the difference. This is where very few systems dare to go. Okay? And upstream means digging deep across the cell barrier into the cells and across the blood-brain barrier into the brain to pull out the deeply embedded toxins that have already gotten there. So the downstream detox isn't touching these guys. All right? They've already gotten through. So we have to go upstream for these guys. And there's very specific ways to do that. And some of the more common toxins that go upstream are poisonous heavy metals, things like lead, mercury, arsenic. And these are very prevalent in our environment, in our food, and in our cosmetics, okay, that you don't realize are even there, yet your body's absorbing them, and they're going into your cells, into your brain, and they lead to things like osteoporosis, Alzheimer's, heart disease, okay? Even Ralphie's upset about that.
I know. Ralphie's like,
okay?
You're wearing lipstick. What do you have? What's
right.
in there?
So let's talk about lipstick for a second. A lot of women like to wear bright red lipstick, right? Well, how do they get that right red chromatic color? Mercury.
Really?
Mercury is what makes that bright red color. If they wear black eyeliner, that deep black, how do you get that? That's called coal, which is lead. And you're putting that right on your mucous membranes for direct access right into your body.
Wow.
Okay, and that's pretty scary stuff.
Pretty scary. Yeah.
If you have silver fillings in your mouth, right? Now, nowadays, they use mostly white composites, but back in my day, right, it was all silver fillings. And it's not called silver because it's made of silver. It's just colored silver.
Right.
What's really made up of is 54% mercury and then an amalgam that commonly contains other metals like nickel. Yeah. Okay? And that toxin, mercury, is an extremely potent neurotoxin that destroys brain cells, neurons, instantly on contact. Okay? So, he's going to lick my neck now. Just there's nothing to see here. Move along. Okay.
Yeah. Turn your camera off. Just listen.
So they've actually done films that I've seen where they expose a brain cell, a neuron, pictured as a long cell, to the presence of mercury. And it's like, have you ever held one of your hairs over a flame of a candle and it curls right up?
Yeah.
That's what happens to a neuron. Put mercury near it, disappears and dies. Okay? And this stuff has an affinity for your brain, your heart, your liver, and kidneys. All right? That's where it goes when you ingest it. So when it's in a filling, the American Dental Association's party line is, as long as it's contained in that filling, it's safe. If that filling's cracked, you might have a problem. But if it's contained in that filling, it's safe. It can't come out because the only thing that would make it come out would be warmth or friction. You ever eat a hot meal?
I know.
You ever chew a hot meal?
I know.
So there's been plenty of studies that show that the mercury vapor dramatically erupts if you grind your teeth, if you're eating a hot meal, and that gets absorbed through the mucous membranes, the roof of your mouth, and right up into your blood supply, up into your brain.
And it's such an easy fix.
It is.
Because I had mine replaced probably 20 years ago. I had all those metallic fillings replaced. Right.
And you do want to keep in mind, even though it's an easy fix, you do want to go to the right kind of dentist to do it. And that's called a biologically trained dentist. Right? And they're typically trained by an organization called the International Oral and Medical Academy of Toxicologists, IOM. I'm sorry, I don't remember. You can look it up. But it is, if you simply Google a biological dentist, it's going to come up. Okay? And why it's important to go with a biological dentist is they are trained in the very specific techniques to remove those fillings without vaporizing the mercury. Okay? So it's not, you don't want to drill it out. That's a big mistake. Now you're releasing all that mercury vapor, thousands of times.
Don't
Okay.
you remember when we were kids and we had the mercury thermometers, how worried everybody was that we had that
Yep.
in their mouth, that broke in our mouths? But yet they're putting that in the fillings that are in our
Right.
mouths all the time.
Right. Now I remember
It's so perplexing. Like
I
what?
remember a patient
It doesn't
coming
even
to
make
me.
sense.
It's scary. I remember a patient coming to me who was from another country, and she said it was very common for them to play with mercury as children and play with the little ball in your hand because it would roll along. And they
Yeah.
physically played with mercury. And then they would have it get it absorbed through their skin, and they would put their hands in their mouth. And I explained to her that, that's crazy dangerous because that goes to your brain. And if you have that much, it can absolutely be associated with a brain tumor. And she looked like a deer in the headlights and said, I have a brain tumor.
Oh,
All right. So she hadn't even told me that.
yeah.
So I'm not saying that everyone's going to get a brain tumor from your fillings. I didn't say that, folks. Okay.
I'm a little concerned. I think you're psychic.
No.
No, I really do. We need to talk later.
Unfortunately, I've gotten really good.
Yeah.
I've gotten really good at seeing the warning signs
Yeah.
and learning how to read the body, which really is not done so much in medicine anymore.
Yeah.
Right? When's the last time I went to a doctor and they actually put their hands on you?
Yeah, right. I know.
Right? So it gets kind of scary.
Yeah.
Just recently I found a problem in someone's spine that relates to their nerve function, and I was unable to get it corrected. It refused to do what I wanted it to do. It was locked out, and I said to that person, I'm extremely concerned because that nerve controls your heart, amongst other things.
Right.
You're feeling it because it affects your neck muscles and shoulder muscles and affects your arm and your grip. That's what you came to me for, but it also goes to your lungs, your heart, your chest, your breast, that same nerve. So I can't get that to move. That worries me because I've tried 3 different times now. I want you to go to a cardiologist. And they went to the cardiologist, and the cardiologist checked him out, did an EKG, and said, there's nothing wrong with your heart.
Oh.
Heart pressure quacks. Don't you know that? 2 days later, they had a heart attack.
Oh no.
Yep. Now, I don't know what could have been done to prevent that at that point, but the body was showing me loud and clear a signal that there was something wrong with this person's heart. And our traditional medical system does not integrate well with what I was trying to teach and what I was trying to share. So they just blew it off like I was crazy because the EKG was normal. Well, the EKG is only a measurement of what's happening at that moment in time.
Yeah.
Right? And 2 days later, they didn't have the same EKG, I could tell you that.
Oh, that's too bad.
All right. So anyway, that's a tangent. Let's get back to what we were talking about. Okay. So silver fillings release mercury.
Yep.
If you live in a house built before 1978, you were exposed to lead.
Yep.
If your mother lived in a house built before 1978, you were exposed to lead because the lead got absorbed into her body, and then lead likes to hunker down into bones. And for lead to go in, something has to come out. And the exchange is lead in, calcium out. So if calcium goes out and the bones become brittle, what kind of condition do we call that?
Osteoporosis.
Osteoporosis. Yeah. Right. So I think a lot of the osteoporosis we're seeing nowadays is not only because our food is devoid of the nutrients we need to build strong bones, but then we're absorbing lead that's pushing the little calcium we have out. Now, if your mother absorbed the lead and went to her body, it hunkered down in her bones. And it's very hard to get out. Now, when your mom got pregnant, towards the end of her pregnancy, her brain said, hey, there's a bus leaving the depot, like in a couple of weeks. Let's load every seat up with this stuff we want to get rid of, this stuff we've been so afraid of. And you can see the studies where they show that in that last couple of weeks, right before giving birth, the body pushes the lead out into the embryo, into the fetus. And then that's you, and then you're born with the lead. And lead poisoning and toxicity, if there's enough of it, will lead to things like stunted growth, lower IQ, hearing difficulties. Okay, and think about Flint, Michigan a couple of years back. They had a massive lead crisis because every major city in the United States built in the 1800s, which by the way is every major city in the United States, has lead-lined pipes that carry the water into that city. And then we've updated things to change them to things like PVC, but somewhere along the line, there's still lead. And if the water going through those pipes is slightly more acidic than usual, it's going to leach that lead right out and take it right to you, which is why it's extremely important not to drink tap water. You need to use a good purification system that's pulling all this stuff out. Okay? And a lot of people don't. They say, yes, I've got that on my sink. I've got a reverse osmosis system taking all the stuff out. Keep in mind, reverse osmosis is fantastic because it does take all these toxins out. But it also is so good, it takes out all the minerals you need too. So you have to add minerals back to your reverse osmosis water before you drink it, or at least take a good mineral supplement.
I have well water.
Okay, so well water can be very dangerous as well. So you need to have that tested and see what's in it. And you got to make sure that you are replenishing, taking out the toxins and replenishing it with good minerals and electrolytes for proper absorption into your cells. Okay, it's very easy to do. Like I use a 4-stage filtration system with reverse osmosis being one of those in my home, and it fills all my water into a pitcher for me, and then it has a little button on the bottom like you would have at a water cooler, and I just add mineral drops to that gallon of water, and I just get my water from that, right? So very easy to do, but you could also take a mineral supplement, and as long as you're getting it in there so your body can use it.
Can you have too many minerals? I have very hard water. I have hard water.
You can, yes. So most of us are mineral deficient, so it's kind of hard to get too many minerals, but you can, right? You can have too many minerals in your water that will change the taste, make it funky. Some minerals that can cause us damage are too much copper, too much iron. These minerals, if we have too much, build up in our tissues and cause problems for us, okay? One of the reasons that women tend to have less heart disease than men is because they get rid of iron every month, okay, through blood. So too much iron can lead to heart disease. Too much copper can lead to blindness, okay, amongst other things. Now, enough copper can lead to other problems. Not enough iron can lead to other problems, like anemia.
I'm so stressed.
Right? So we want to have a balance, right? In one way, if you're unsure, well, how do I know? What do I know what I need? Because we're really good at throwing out general recommendations, right? Everyone needs to take this. Everyone needs to take that. Not necessarily. And how much of this? How much of that? So there's other testing you can do that's micronutrient testing, and actually looks at your individual biological levels and needs, and looks at not what's floating in the blood, but rather what's inside the cell. Remember we talked about how important it is about what's happening inside that cell?
Right.
So your general blood tests, hey, I got a test for vitamin D. I got a test for my B vitamin status. I got a test for my sodium, my magnesium. Well, if it was just a serum test, that means it was looking at what's floating in the bloodstream, which is like saying, what's in the gas tank in my car? Good to know, but what I really want to know is the gas getting through the engine and being burned properly, converting to the right kind of energy formation, and then is it actually coming out the tailpipe the way it's supposed to, right? And that's what we do with a micronutrient test when we look inside the cell. Much more specific. So I may say, Veronica, we tested you, and you only need 3 nutrients right now. You're great on all the others. Let's get these up a little bit. Okay? So you're doing a really good job with your diet or whatever it is. Then I test someone else and go, holy cow, you need 33 nutrients. Right? So it really depends on the person. I'm sorry, my dogs are getting into their wrestling mode. I hear the heavy breathing. So I'm going to pick Ralphie up again before this all gets into a crazy bark fest.
Well, we all know I need omega-3 fatty acids.
Yes. Absolutely. And that's of prime importance. Okay, as we said.
I had no idea how important.
Yep.
So, all right. So now we're detoxing for 3 months. So do you recommend, well, I'm from what I'm hearing from you, you recommend that everyone detoxes.
Yes. And I recommend that you should probably do a real thorough detox like I'm talking about twice a year. Okay. So there's things you can do on a regular basis that's lower level for maintenance, but a good, really deep downstream and upstream would be twice a year. Yep. Question for the class.
So there's 12 months.
Yep.
And 6 months of that we're detoxing?
No, you should do this 12-week process twice a year, right? So 3 months on, 3 months off, 3 months on, 3 months off.
That's what but like 6 months of the 12 months you're detoxing.
That would be ideal.
Okay.
Okay. If you, the bare minimum, once a year.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I have to look and see what the detox is. It might be delicious and amazing, so it might not be so bad.
Right. So
So,
it's, I
how do
don't know
you
if I'll go that
feel?
far, but okay.
How do you feel? So we are starting the first 2 weeks and we're detoxing.
hmm
How are you going to feel? Kind of walk me
So
through the 3 months and what
sure.
people can expect.
So in those first 2 weeks, you're preparing the plumbing,
Uh-huh.
right? And the first step of that is what we call a vitamin C flush.
Okay.
That means that we want to get enough vitamin C into your system to really make sure that you've got enough there to get this job done, because vitamin C is an important part of the detoxification process in different factors. And many people are deficient. So we want to make sure that we have enough vitamin C. So we have you take vitamin C kind of rapid fire on the first day. So there's a certain powdered vitamin C I have you use. It's buffered so it doesn't upset your stomach. And buffered means adding certain minerals to it, so it's a little easier on your stomach, because vitamin C by itself tends to be acidic, right? So we take a dose and we wait 15 or 20 minutes. Then we take a dose and we wait 15 or 20 minutes. Then we take a dose until you go, uh-oh, I got to go to the bathroom, because it'll give you loose bowels. So when you reach that level, you've reached your threshold. You've got enough vitamin C. So from every day past that for your detox, you just take one serving. So if it took you 4 servings to flush, you just go back to 1 serving. So that's the only time that you might feel like I need to run to the bathroom. And running to the bathroom is not the goal. It's simply a sign that you've reached the threshold of what we want you to reach. Okay?
And energy wise, how do you feel?
Usually you're energetic.
Okay.
Yeah. So you should not feel ill at any point during this process. If you do, something's wrong. Okay? And then we have to
Well,
investigate what that is.
yeah, so that's what I hear with some of these detox programs, that people aren't feeling well, and I'm sure
Right.
you've heard this too. And then the narrative is like, well, of course not, because you're changing the way you eat, you're eliminating toxins, you're just not going to feel well.
So
What?
if you're eliminating toxins, you don't feel that at all.
Okay.
If you're releasing toxins back out of storage into your bloodstream without a proper way to support their elimination, you're going to feel really crappy,
Okay.
right?
And is this
So
helping you?
no, that's actually hurting you. All
So
right.
if you don't feel well, you're probably doing something wrong.
Usually, right?
Okay.
Now, I want to explain something. So feeling good does not mean you're healthy, and having symptoms does not mean you're sick. Okay? So let's just get that straight for a second, because our traditional system has taught us that your health depends on how you feel. And that's a really poor indicator. My patient had the heart attack. Did they feel anything happening? No. Right? The patient who has cancer growing. Do they feel cancer growing? No. Not until it gets to a certain point. Now look at the other side of the spectrum. Let's say you and I go out for dinner and we got some bad fish. Okay? And right off the bat, I go, whoa, I don't feel so good. Do you feel okay? And you say, I feel great. What's wrong with you? Well, I have a headache. I'm starting to feel kind of nauseous. And you say, well, maybe you have a bug. Don't come near me. Why don't you go home, have some chicken soup, curl up, see how you do. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I go home, and on my way home, I start throwing up. I'm feeling really crappy. I call you up between yaks, and I say, Veronica, how do you feel? I feel horrible. Are you okay? You say, I'm awesome. I feel great. I'm really sorry you don't feel well, but no, I'm good. It wasn't what we ate. I go home, and now I'm in the bathroom all night long, trading between the garbage can and the toilet, right? Because it's coming out both ends. You go
Thanks for
home,
sharing.
curl up in bed. Well, it happens. So you go home, you curl up in bed, and you fall fast asleep. By the time the morning comes, I'm exhausted because my body's been working hard to get this poison out all night long. A healthy response to ingesting poison. I should be throwing up hard. I should have diarrhea hard, right? Because that's dangerous stuff. And I call you up to tell you how bad I am, and instead I get your husband. He's crying, and he tells me, Veronica didn't wake up this morning. She died from food poisoning her body did not eliminate. Okay? So you felt fine, but your body was not healthy. because it was not eliminating the toxin we both ingested. I felt horrible. My body was really healthy and got it out as fast as possible.
Okay.
Right? So symptoms can be an indication something's right or that something's wrong. So
That's
symptoms
interesting.
don't tell you much of anything about your level of health. The first symptom of 50% of major heart attacks is death. Okay? You don't feel it coming. So we've been misled, mistaught that symptoms define how healthy you are and that you should not do things to try to work on your health until you don't feel well. Or if you don't feel well, you should immediately go get a drug to make you feel well, because feeling bad is obviously the enemy.
That's really interesting.
Right? You think about it. It makes sense. You know? What doesn't make sense is taking a pill for every ill and never letting your body express a symptom.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because when I was in the hospital, I was, really, really, really high fevers.
Right.
And they wouldn't, grandma always pull tons of blankets on you trying to break the fever. And they're like, well, you can do that at home, but we're not going to do that for you here. You've got your body, you having a fever is a good thing because your body is fighting this.
So the doctors actually told you that? Because that shocks the heck out of me.
The nurse.
Or the nurse, okay. Because our traditional system would say lower the fever.
Yeah. Now, yeah.
Right?
I mean, they were definitely making me comfortable and giving me IVs and, doing
Right.
all of those things. But my fever was so high, it didn't matter. It was very, very, very high.
Yeah.
So,
As an example of that, just reminded me, and I may have shared this with you before, but my history with my wife when I went through with her cancer. And I had her on a protocol that I created. And as soon as I did that, she developed a fever. And she had a fever every day for months. Right? And I was very excited about that because that indicated to me her immune system was upregulating and fighting. Right? Because what is a fever? A fever serves multiple purposes. One reason we have a fever is to raise our body temperature above that temperature with which the invading organism likes to live. Mm-hmm. So when you ingest something that doesn't belong, your immune system actually reads that genetic code in that organism and says, oh, you like to live at 100? I'm going to make it 102. Right? To make you uncomfortable, make you want to leave, or even kill you. The bacteria or virus, not you. Right? Now, the other thing that a fever does, what typically happens when you get a fever, when you have a fever coming on? We get the chills, right?
Everything.
Right? So why do we get the chills? What's chills? Chills are your muscles doing something called fasciculation, right? And what that does is release calcium that's stored in the muscles, because calcium is extremely important to initiate the immune system cascade, to actually tell the white blood cells what to do to fight off the invading organism. So calcium is extremely important to your immune functioning. And if your body's trying to fight something, it's going to look for more calcium. Now, it can get calcium out of your bones or calcium out of your muscles. It's a lot easier to get it out of your muscles. And when it makes your muscles fasciculate, that shoots calcium out into your bloodstream, and that immediately helps initiate the immune response. So a fever is really important. So when we're trying to make ourselves comfortable, and little Johnny has a fever, and the first thing that we want to do is give him Tylenol to bring the fever down, we're directly stopping the immune system's ability to mount a proper immune defense. So they feel better, but they don't heal better.
Right.
Okay?
We've probably digressed.
I think we have. But actually,
let's go back.
This is all very important when it comes down to detoxification.
It is.
Okay? And so we talked about different phases of detoxification and the liver having to get rid of stuff. And minerals are important, right? And in downstream is important because we're going to work on supporting the liver. We're going to get on the toxins out of the bloodstream, out of the gut, out of the tissues where it's stored superficially. Then upstream is going to dig into the cells and dig into the brain. So 2-week preparation process, right? Then about 4 weeks of downstream, which we call body detox, and about 6 weeks of upstream, which is still body, but mostly brain detox. Mm-hmm. So again, if we think about the temple with the different floors, and we think about the plumbing, it's a lot easier to empty the top floors if the bottom floor has been emptied first, right? So if we take it out of the body first, then it comes out of the brain more easily. If we start the brain, but the middle level is still clogged, it's hard for that to come out, right?
Okay, so this goes into the levels, like
right. So we
okay.
clear out the plumbing, then we clear out the body, then we clear out the brain. Okay? So we're going to use gravity, so to speak, to help us with that, right? It's not really gravity, but we're going to think of it that way.
So
right?
what happens when we're done with our 12-week detox? How do we go back to eating?
So then we celebrate with a retox. No. Okay.
I know, right?
All right. So in this process, I teach you how to eat properly, right? What to eat, what not to eat, what to drink, what not to drink. It would be ideal if you kept up with that. Okay. But at the very least, eat real food. Stop eating processed food with lots of added toxins. I'll tell you right now, a pepperoni pizza is not real food. All right? It's made of pepperoni, which is a processed meat full of toxins. And then it's going to be made with cheese that came from, I'm sure, not an organic cow. So it's full of pesticides, herbicides, antibiotics, and hormones. And then it's put onto a crust that's made with wheat that's been sprayed with pesticides and herbicides, especially glyphosate, which I think we may have spoken about before, which is probably the most dangerous, most pervasive toxin in our environment today that destroys the bacteria in your gut, which are necessary for your immune function, destroys your hormone balance, leads to something called leaky gut, which leads to something called leaky brain. And then we start letting toxins more easily in and out of both our intestines and our brain, and we wonder why we have forgetfulness or thyroid problems or dementia or difficulty sleeping. There's no wonder at all. You poison the system and open the door, you're asking for trouble.
I do have a quick question. What is your position on dairy if it's organic?
So I don't have a problem with dairy. I don't have a problem with meat, as long as it's organic and you as an individual do not have a sensitivity or allergy to it.
And you would know that how?
Proper testing. So pretty much you're going to hear me repeat certain things over and over, and one big one is stop guessing, start testing.
Well, it's true.
Because how are you going to know? You can try an elimination diet, but good luck with that, because if it's a food sensitivity, it can take up to 3 days to feel the result. And it typically occurs only once you reach a threshold level of having too much of a certain food, or it's in combination with another food. So you could say, I think I'm sensitive to eggs, but I am today and I was fine. I am tomorrow, I was fine. I am the next day and I felt like crap. Well, that's because you're sensitive to 3 eggs, not 2. Or you're sensitive to eggs with a certain kind of grain that was in the toast that you had, or something that was in the jelly that you had, or something that was in the creamer you put in your coffee, right? So the only way you really figure that stuff out is with proper testing, and that's a blood test. A food sensitivity blood test compares you against hundreds and hundreds of foods, and there are a number of different kinds of food sensitivity tests, and this is another thing, just like you talk about people doing detox programs online, I see people doing food sensitivity testing online, but they don't realize they're getting a very simplified test, just like they're doing a very simplified form of detox, right?
Now, do you do that one though?
Yes.
Okay, so
I do just about everything. I just do about every test you could imagine that really has value, you know?
Well, so, obviously the one I did was 100% spot on. So that's why I was excited to tell you, not that I had COVID. I didn't tell you that. I knew that you didn't want to hear that, but that you were 100% spot on. And I actually had COVID during the last show.
As we were talking, we didn't know that, but I knew that your cell membrane omega-3 fatty acid number was so low that all your defenses were down.
Yeah.
That there was no way that your cells could withstand an attack by a virus.
And you know, it's tough for me, right? Because I'm a pescatarian, but even fish, it's hard for me to eat animals, and I don't judge others that do, but for me, and I've been this way my whole life, it's hard, so there's certain things I'll eat, but I just don't eat a lot of it,
And the wonderful thing is you don't have to, because you can get this from a specifically grown type of algae.
Yes.
Right? So you
told
don't
me
have
that,
to eat
yeah.
fish at all if you don't want to.
Yeah,
You
no,
get,
it's fine. But
just the right amount you need in other ways. I would not recommend trying to do it for flax or chia or other plant sources. They do provide omega-3s, but when you're in the state of inflammation of the cell membranes, your body can't convert them properly.
okay,
So they're fine once you're in a good place to help
sure.
maintain. But don't say, well, I eat flaxseed every day, I'm good. No, it
Well,
doesn't
you
work that
said
way.
I needed like 2,000 milligrams. Oh, is it milligrams? No. Yeah,
Yeah,
milligram? Yeah,
yep,
yeah. I need
milligrams.
2,000 a day.
Right,
So
right,
that's quite a bit. I don't
right.
think that's a lot of chia seeds.
It sure is. And
I
uh,
was
and
just,
the chia seeds have to be converted biochemically in your
yeah.
body to the DHA and EPA that we wanted, and you wouldn't even be able to do it because your cells at the state you were in were so dysfunctional they couldn't do it. And think about that. You ate what you consider to be a pretty healthy diet,
I am,
right?
if anybody that knows me will tell you I am super healthy. I eat really well. I work out. People were shocked that I was so sick
So let me ask
with
you a question
this.
about that. You just
Yeah,
said you're super healthy. How do you define health?
I know. I know because I don't eat crap, but I wasn't getting the proper nutrients. I
Right,
wasn't getting the omega 3s. I was missing things in my diet. So even though I'm eating salad and and all that, I wasn't getting enough nutrients. I was missing some things.
right. And
And
just
I wouldn't have known it had I not taken that test.
exactly, exactly. And we learned a lot more from that test other than just that. We learned about how to fix you, right?
Yeah, it
Exactly what
really
you
is
needed.
worth it. And I am such a believer, and especially since everything. Anyway, so let me talk
Right.
about salmon. I don't, because we're talking about the salmon, I'm very
Hmm.
excited about this. So you
Yes.
had told me that wild salmon was preferred over farm raised, and the
Right.
reason why was because you are what you eat,
Hmm.
and farm raised does not have the nutrients.
Right. So farm raised, they raise a fish in vats. They very often get sick. A whole vat will go down. And actually, look at it from an aerial view, you'll see like a dark gray, nasty vat of all dead fish.
Right.
And then they typically take those dead fish and chop them up and feed them to the other fish.
Yeah.
Pretty bad. And they actually feed the fish grains. What fish do you know that eats
Yeah.
grains?
I know.
Right? And the grains are sprayed with the pesticides and
I mean, I
herbicides like
guess
glyphosate.
fish tank fish.
Yeah, and even
Yeah.
that, they're getting flake food. It's not even grains.
Right.
They're getting
That's true.
flake food that's made of,
Fish.
different
Like it's,
algae and other things, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah, or whatever
yeah.
other shrimp or I don't know,
Right,
whatever it is.
right.
So anyway, I was having difficulty finding wild salmon. And I found a company online, and I actually have it on the ticker. So if anybody is interested in getting fish, this is the Wild Alaskan Salmon Company, and it's Wild Alaskan Company.
Company.
But
So we left the P out,
I
right?
don't have my glasses.
So there's no P in their fish.
Hold on, I'll fix it. Hold on. I put this up without my glasses. This is actually pretty funny. All right, let's try this again.
Well, I wouldn't worry too much about it. People are smart to figure out how to spell company.
I know. Wait, hold on. There
There
we
you
go. Is
go.
that right?
You got
Okay.
it.
Okay. Anyway, so they will ship you fresh, caught, frozen salmon,
Awesome.
Alaskan wild. So I'm very excited. So I'm on auto ship for that. So we'll see how that
Yeah.
goes. And they'll be happy. They got a free little plug.
Excellent. Excellent.
Okay. So we are talking about post detoxing, right?
Right. So let's talk about the general rules of what you should do once you're clean to help maintain that. Right. So, and I can't remember, we've talked about so much, I can't remember if we've gone over anything like this in the last episodes, but there are general rules to eating clean. And I think I did talk about this a little bit when I talked about my chair diet, but chair again stands for cellular healing. That was really good. You were right on that. Cellular healing, anti-inflammatory rotation. And there is an umbrella portion of that plan, which is overall, eat this, not that. Okay.
Yeah.
And the number one thing we talk about not eating is grains. right? Until your body's in a point where we've measured it and we know it's no longer inflamed and it can tolerate the grains, because grains are very inflammatory. Even whole grains are very inflammatory. Even organic grains can be inflammatory because they convert to sugar very rapidly in your bloodstream. And sugar is inflammatory. So I'm not saying grains are evil, but when you're in an ill state and your cells are not working properly, that's what I mean by ill. Not how you feel necessarily, because you may not feel it. But if your cells are not working properly, you are ill, whether you feel it or not. So if you're in that state, or if you already know you're sick, you've been diagnosed with something, no doubt about it, right? You want to make sure you don't eat any grains, okay?
And I found a bread.
Yes, right?
I'm going to grab this right now. Okay, so I found a bread from julianbakery.com. It's paleo thin bread, and it is made with coconut flour.
Excellent.
So, and it's only 45 calories a slice, no sugar. I think net carbs is like nothing, 0.
So that's fantastic, right?
Soy-free, gluten-free, grain-free.
And that's what we want. You want to watch out for soy, because a lot of people think they're doing well by eating soy. But the soy that we get, again, has been genetically modified. It's not the soy grandma used to get. It's a different animal altogether. The phytoestrogens in the plant have been concentrated, so you're getting a burst of estrogen-like chemicals that change your body's chemistry, throw off your hormones big time for both men and women. And most of the soy that we get has been stored in aluminum vats, especially if it's been processed in something like tofu. And that aluminum leaches into the vats, and here we go, we have a heavy metal toxicity again.
What do you think about tofu?
Not a fan, right? Because of what I just said. Now,
I don't actually eat it either. But.
Yeah. If it's organically prepared and we know that it's not been stored in aluminum vats, and I'm not sure how you would figure that out or not, I feel less concerned about it because we don't have the poisons in it, but it's still going to be very concentrated phytoestrogens just because of what it is, right? And if you have any propensity at all to breast cancer or ovarian cancer, that's going to make it grow, okay? So there is, and studies have been done to show that a little bit of soy is protective, but too much soy makes it grow. Well, how much is too much? Well, there's a kicker. No one knows. So it drives me crazy when I see these products saying, but soy is good for you. It helps protect from cancer up to a certain level, but you don't know what that level is.
Yeah.
And it's different for each person. So how do you know when you've crossed the line, now you're creating cancer? So I'd rather say just don't take that chance.
What about legumes?
So for most people, it's okay, but they're high in something called lectins. And just like certain people have gluten sensitivity, certain people have lectin sensitivities. And basically, you're going to not feel well when you eat them. You're going to get a lot of digestive distress, typically. And so you usually can figure that one out. You may not have that symptom, but if you do, you're probably sensitive to the lectins. And then there are things you can take supplement-wise that block the lectin absorption in your body. And so then you can still eat them.
Is it better to do that? Or is it better just to not eat the things?
I think it's better to avoid them, personally. It's like you're trying to wrap up something your body really doesn't like and hope it doesn't escape. I think you're better just kind of not having that.
Okay.
You know, and again, getting a proper food sensitivity test that measures many different facets of how your immune system reacts to the food is really the best way to know that, right? So we briefly spoke about people ordering food sensitivity tests online, which only measures one route of the immune system's reaction, like IgG antibodies. Well, there's many routes your body can respond. If you're only measuring that one route on this $99 test, you're missing all these possibilities of how your immune system may still be reacting, so you're being misled.
And is that just a simple blood test like the other one that I took?
It is. It's a blood test. It's not a finger prick test. You cannot get this information from a finger prick test. Blood has to be drawn for it. You have to fill up a couple of vials. Okay. So
you have to have a person do that for you.
Well, what we do is we send you a test kit and you go to a mobile phlebotomist. You go to a phlebotomy draw station.
Okay.
like there's all different ones around town, or you have a mobile phlebotomist comes to you, draws the blood at your home or your place of work. Boys, come on. The boys are acting up again. Sorry.
That's great, though. They'll
Yeah.
do it for you. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a list. So when I send someone a test kit for this stuff, I also say, okay, and this is who you're going to call to get your blood drawn, or this is where you're going to go to get your blood drawn. It's on 5th Street. You walk in, give them this test kit, they'll draw your blood, mail it out to the lab. I'll call you as soon as we have the results, and we'll talk about your specific sensitivities and your specific diet that's optimum for you, because it really is different for each person.
I know I have food sensitivities 100%. So I'm definitely going to do this test for sure.
Very important because it leads to, again, chronic low-level inflammation if you don't address it. And that leads to a challenge to your immune system, an extra burden to your immune system all the time, so that your immune system can't fight off things like cancer.
Right.
All right, so don't eat grains, don't eat sugar. All right, so the main reason we're saying no grains is because they convert to sugar. So that also means don't eat sugar. Right?
Honey.
So honey is sugar.
Agave.
Sweetie, honey is sugar. All right, so
stay away from it.
Stay away from it. Okay, so agave is sugar. All right, it's a lower glycemic sugar, so it converts a little more slowly in your bloodstream, but not that much more slowly, and it's still sugar. Okay.
So the best thing is to avoid it altogether.
Correct.
So
you can still have sweeteners such as stevia or monk fruit.
Is that okay for you?
So stevia is a plant, monk fruit is a plant. All right, and they are sweet, but they don't cause a change to your hormone balance involving insulin like other sweeteners do. And let me make a point. We do not want artificial sweeteners.
Like the blue packet and the pink
Right.
packet.
We don't want the yellow, pink, or blue packet.
Oh, the yellow packet, right.
Okay. Because they all create damage in different ways.
Okay.
So aspartame, right, which is NutraSweet, causes brain damage. All right. It's an excitotoxin that kills brain cells.
Nice.
Saccharin, right, has been known to be related to cancer. Right? So each of these have their problems. Stevia is okay for most people. Now, if you have a ragweed allergy, that plant is in the same family, you might have a reaction to stevia.
And what kind of reactions are you talking about?
Like allergies, right? Like hay fever.
Oh, okay.
All right. If you're diabetic, any sweetness at all can trigger a hormone imbalance and insulin problem, even though it's not even really sugar. So your brain gets conditioned to connect sugar with sweetness. And so when sugar comes in and triggers the sweetness, that causes a cascade of hormones that causes a problem with diabetes. So even if you're ingesting stevia, which has no sugar at all, and the sweetness gets triggered, then that's going to also trigger a hormone problem. So for someone who is diabetic, I recommend no sugar, no sweetener at all.
Insulin resistance.
Right. So insulin resistance is the first step that leads to diabetes.
So you would say the same for somebody?
You could tolerate a little bit more if you're at that stage, right? But if you're already becoming resistant and your hemoglobin A1C is climbing, you're just asking for trouble if you do that.
So you will be able to see that with my tests that I have, the one that I need to take that I haven't taken yet.
Yep, that one, right, which is looking at all the hormones, the neurotransmitters, looking at everything that involves your metabolism, your stress hormones, your sex hormones, and the neurotransmitters are the hormones in your brain that tell your organs and glands how to balance and make these other hormones for proper sexual function, proper metabolism and fat burning, proper stress response, all controlled in the brain. And all those hormones in the brain are controlled by the bacteria in your gut. So it's a big loop that goes on here. But the test I'm very patiently waiting for you to do.
I'm going to now. I needed to get healthy. I didn't want to do it.
Right.
You know.
I agree. And that's a urine and saliva test that looks at the neurotransmitters, sex hormones, stress hormones, and sugar metabolism hormones.
Yeah.
Okay. And stress hormones. So we can see how all that's working and balancing. And all of that is influenced and directed by specific targeted nutrients. So we're going to look for any areas of imbalance. And if we find that, we're going to recommend a dynamite plan called TNT, Targeted Nutrient Therapy, to correct what we found going on that's wrong there. And you're going to do that for 3 months, and we're going to retest you. And hopefully we're going to see that you're right where you're supposed to be.
Beautiful. I love it. So bottom line, should you detox?
Absolutely. We should do a little bit to pay attention to detoxification every day. And there are some maintenance things you can do after you're done doing a really thorough detox, using certain supplements, very light, very easy. You never feel ill because your body's just helping the normal processing of it. You should eat clean, eat real food, right? We've all heard this term, eat clean. What does that mean? Do I wash my food? Maybe,
Well,
if it's fruits and vegetables, right?
Yeah.
With some type of organic-based solvent, usually a citrus-based solvent, to get the toxins off of that food. When it comes to meat and dairy, the only way to eat clean is to eat organic, okay? Because the fat of the meat and dairy is where all the poisons are stored, and in the organic animal, the fat contains all the vitamins and minerals. So if you're eating an organic steak, you want as much fat as possible. If you're eating a commercial steak, you want as little fat as possible. If you're drinking organic milk, get the full fat. If you're drinking commercial milk, get the non-fat, all right? But actually, don't drink it at all if you can help it.
right.
Just get the organic, right?
Right.
No grains, no sugar. Let's talk about oils for a second.
Oh,
Very important, okay? Because one of the more toxic oils we can ingest is called arachidonic acid. And arachidonic acid comes from vegetable oil, soybean oil, canola oil, which is not a health food. No matter what they tell you, canola oil is today's version of margarine as compared to butter. All right. Olive oil is fantastic for you until you heat it. If you cook with olive oil, you turn it into a bad oil.
right.
And again, like the soybean, a little bit's okay, a little bit more is not, and you don't know when you cross that line. So I just suggest you just don't cook with it.
Right.
Use olive oil for flavoring agent, drizzle it on at the end, use it in your salad dressings. Cook with coconut oil, cook with avocado oil. These have a very high smoke point, which means they can heat up to about 900 degrees before they go bad.
And read your labels, because
Read your labels.
some
Absolutely.
of these companies are
Right.
cutting the oils with
Right,
other
absolutely.
stuff.
It's so hard to find a salad dressing that's really made with olive oil, right? Almost every one I pick up says made with olive oil. You flip it over, it's soybean oil with a dash of olive oil.
Corn
It's
oil.
canola, it's corn oil. Horrible, horrible stuff, right? So bad oils again, soybean oil, canola oil, vegetable oil, corn oil.
I had
Sun-
also, while we're talking about corn oil, my friend was telling me she looked at her bottle of vitamin D supplements, and there was corn oil was
Yep.
in the vitamin D supplement.
Yep. I had a patient the other day bring me a vitamin E supplement in soybean oil. I mean, talk about take a good thing and turning it bad.
I know. And it's not
Right.
regulated, right?
Yep. It's crazy,
Yeah.
but they think it's good. That's the problem.
Right.
Or
you
you go
think
into the
you're
health
doing a
food
good
store.
thing. What do you know? You think you're doing a good thing, and you're
Right,
like,
you
oh,
go into
I've
what
got
we'll
my
call-
vitamin D. Yeah.
It's crazy. We'll go into what we call a health food store because I'm looking for a healthy snack, right? I want a chip that I could put in my organic guacamole or organic salsa. So I start looking at the labels. I'm like, great, great, great. And then I say canola oil. You just ruined it for me,
Right.
right? So many things have canola oil in it because they market it as a healthy alternative, and it's not at all.
And it's cheap.
It's cheap. It's genetically modified rapeseed oil from Canada. Canola means Canadian oil. Okay? So it's genetically modified rapeseed oil. Rapeseed oil by itself is very inflammatory. Then you genetically modify it to change the polyunsaturated balance of it and make it unrecognizable to your body, and your body can't digest it properly, and it creates more inflammation. Right?
I'm so tired. What do we do?
You just pay attention.
I know
pay
we have
attention.
to. You have
And
to
we-
look at every single label.
You do. My kids hate going to the grocery store with me because they can't just put things in the wagon. I take every single thing out and stand there, and they're like, come on, Dilly. They call me Dilly for dilly-dally. Come on. I'm like, I'm not dilly-dallying. I'm saving your freaking life, right? And I put it back on the shelf. My daughter gets angry, but that's the way it goes, right? because I got responsibility.
My dad used to look at unit pricing. That was his thing in the grocery store.
Right,
Unit pricing. This is not the value. The value is here, not here. And he'd
right.
get all frustrated the whole time.
And we get sucked into that, right? And we'll
Yeah.
go for the better value, even though it's
Yeah.
not the ingredients,
Yeah,
right?
well, this was back in the day, you know.
Yeah,
It didn't serve him well. He had his very first massive heart attack when he was 46.
right. How
And
sad is that?
then
Right,
and then they put him on margarine and like all this, the complete opposite of how we should eat, right?
right.
You know. I
You
mean,
know what's crazy?
you know what that diet was.
We
Yeah.
think we think we know better than that now. Go visit the cardiac ward in a hospital and
Yeah.
ask them to see a menu of their heart-friendly diet.
Yeah.
Then go to the diabetic area and ask for a diabetic-friendly diet. It is the exact opposite of what anyone should be eating with either of those conditions.
And honestly, like if you looked at my father, he was tall, he was thin, not like super thin, but he was like thin. You wouldn't look at him and think, that he was sick.
Right?
You wouldn't. And he suffered, he passed away young. He was 66 and he had a massive heart attack. So like from 46 to 66, they kept him going, and he had lots of angio
Right.
plasties,
Angioplasties.
and
Right.
he had quadruple bypass surgery, and they kept him going, but for the last 20 years of his life was really tough, and he was eating the opposite of what he should have been eating. He didn't know this is what the doctors told him to do, and he followed it.
Yeah, I think it's a very sad state that we've allowed to occur. I mean, look at the food pyramid today. What's at the base of the food pyramid? What do they tell you to eat the most of?
I know. Is it grains? Isn't it
Grains.
Yeah, grains.
What's at the top of the food pyramid? The one they tell you to eat the least of.
I don't know. I think it's like a
Health-
carrot or something. Or
Healthy
not.
oils.
Oh, was
Healthy
it oils?
oils.
I have to remember.
It should be flipped.
Yeah,
You should
for
flip
sure.
the food pyramid, right?
Yeah,
And
for sure.
that's been proven by research over and over and over for the last 50 years. And it's
Yeah.
still ass backwards.
Yeah, I
You
don't
know?
understand. But we're starting to learn and we know better, and you're helping us. I appreciate you. I really do. You're going to help a lot of people.
Well, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come out here and blab, right?
Yeah, I know.
Because I can
You
tell
have
you
quite
right
a
now,
you have quite a fan club, so
I'll tell you right now,
yeah.
my daughter doesn't want to hear me. So everything out my mouth with is, oh God, Dad, not again.
I know. Well, your diet's not a whole lot of fun, so
Well, it is if you're living a higher quality of life because of it.
I know. But how old is your daughter?
Well, she's 23.
Exactly.
But, and here,
what
and,
did,
actually,
what did we live on then? Pizza.
what's funny is she's been a vegan for about 3 years, and I don't think that's healthy either. And she's had a lot of health problems since being a vegan. She's passed out quite a few times.
Yeah.
And when I ran a micronutrient test on her, she was woefully deficient in major necessary minerals, major necessary vitamins. And she eats what I'll call a healthy, all organic,
Sure.
but all vegan.
Yeah.
And so she was eating too much soy, because that's the main protein ingredient used in a vegan diet. She wasn't getting enough of a spectrum of healthy protein. She wasn't getting enough of a spectrum of food to get a right density of vitamins and minerals in.
Omega 3s, probably not.
Right?
Yeah.
And because she was trying to get mostly from plant sources, right? Because she's not going to eat a fish. And that's hard to convert, especially if you're not working well to begin with,
Yeah.
right? And whether you're a meat eater or not, there are certain nutrients that are readily available in meat that are hard to get elsewhere. So you really have to work at it. You can do it. I'm not saying that being a vegan is absolutely wrong, but it's very hard to do. Most people don't do it properly.
Right.
And so I see a lot of my patients who were vegan end up really sick because they didn't do it properly. So I'm not a big fan of that. I am a fan of vegetarian, but also of eating meat. So how can I have it both ways? That's the chair diet. Cellular healing, anti-inflammatory rotation. We rotate between meat eating and vegetarian. We go keto, vegetarian, paleo, vegetarian, pescatarian. We keep rotating those things. Okay.
We just have to find a meat replacement for me.
Well,
Maybe more fish.
there's a talk about genetic modification. what they're doing now is growing meat in a lab. So you could say it never came from a live animal. You don't have to worry about it, right?
Well, isn't that's even worse than farm raised?
Well, yeah, I'm a little concerned about what's going to be happening there, right? I
Oh,
mean,
let's talk about the veggie burgers. I mean, I've eaten
right,
so many veggie burgers, those Beyond Meat ones and all that.
right,
They're
right.
terrible for
So
you.
some are okay and some aren't. So the Impossible Burger is impossible. Okay. So the ones
Yeah.
that contain
They're gonna
the
get mad at
modified,
us.
you
We're
know,
gonna get
some
in
that
trouble.
contain genetically modified soy, I'm not a big fan, right?
Yeah.
So the Impossible Burger, it contains genetically modified soy that they've combined with heme, which in your blood, hemoglobin is what carries the oxygen and makes your blood cells red.
Mm.
They combine that genetically with heme so that the plant burger bleeds when you cook it. It makes
Yeah.
it look like and taste like real meat. And it does. It's
Oh,
really kind of crazy.
they've done a real good job on that front, but
Right. But we're really unsure about what effect that has on the body because you need to test that stuff for 5, 10 years to really know what's going to happen. Right. So that's not the best choice.
I stopped all of that months ago.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right. Well, anything else, my friend?
All right. Well, I think that we've probably
I mean, we
kept
could
people
talk
long
for,
enough.
we
Right.
could talk for probably 8-10 hours.
We always seem to go at least an hour and a half, and then we could keep
I
on
know.
going. And yeah, I could talk on and on and on if you haven't figured that out.
I
So-
think we answered the question though. Detoxing, thumbs up. It's
Thumbs up.
important.
Do it right. Do it thoroughly. If you're interested in learning about how to do it properly in all of the right steps, and this wasn't really the forum for me to go through the individual steps because it's certain supplements for certain purposes and different things that I can get into with you. We could spend a whole other hour and a half just talking about that if we want to really get into that. But you can feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. I can send you an email to anyone who wants. It outlines the entire plan, right? Just shoot an email to gethelp@drwildcanhelp.com. Okay?
I don't have that banner up.
So it's real easy. We have drwildcanhelp.com. Just put gethelp@ in front of it. Okay? So gethelp@drwildcanhelp.com. That's the email. And just put in the subject line or write me a note, whatever you want, but put in there cellular detox. And I'll email you back the whole outline explaining exactly. Perfect. Look at that.
I don't have my
You
glasses.
did that,
Do you
you
see
did
me
it
in
without
my-
your glasses. That was
I
great.
know. Like,
But I'll be happy
really-
to email you step by step exactly what to do and why and what supplements to use and what to eat, what not to eat. And it's a great place to start. And it's something that you won't hear elsewhere. I trained for years to be a cellular healing specialist and to learn how to do real detox done right. Right?
Yeah, and
And,
I applaud all the people that are out there, pushing their detox programs. They're trying to get people healthy, and that's a good thing. They're bringing awareness to it,
Yes.
and I mean, I think it's fantastic. But I want to make sure, it's done right. And I didn't have the, answer to that, but I knew you
Right.
would. So,
Absolutely. And I'm not saying what they're saying is bad. And some of them are. I've seen some like that's nuts.
yeah.
But most of them are very well meaning and very good, but they're just too limited. in what
Well,
they have to offer.
I think the point that you made earlier, if you feel bad, then something's wrong.
Usually. Okay. So again, as we said before, you could feel bad because you're healing, but that's not what's really happening if you're just doing a limited downstream detox without clearing the plumbing or without digging deep or not also using what we call carrier agents or binders to really pull this stuff fully out. Otherwise, you're doing a lot of releasing, just not a lot of capturing and eliminating.
Right.
And that's the big problem. They're great at releasing. The stuff they're telling you to do is great at releasing. Well, then what?
Right.
Right? So, and I see these heavy metal detoxes and using even natural substances like cilantro. Well, cilantro is great at releasing, is not great at holding. So it'll pull that mercury out of your cells and then let it go into your bloodstream. That's not cool at all.
Well, it's just like you said, it's recirculating.
Right. Okay. And so I just get concerned when I see that happening because then I have to deal with the aftermath.
Sure.
All right. And if you do it right from the beginning and it has to be done slowly to do it right, then you want to draw it out without shocking the body, giving the body time to process. You can't just blast it. There's a reason it was holding it to the side in the first place, because you couldn't handle a blast. Right?
All right. So get help at drwildcanhelp.com and shoot him an email. If you have a question, you could go on his website, drwildcanhelp.com. And all his information is there. Your testing kits are there as well, right?
Yeah, so I don't let people just order tests without consulting with me.
Perfect.
I offer a ton of different things, and not everything's right for each person, right?
Perfect.
So what I always tell everybody is just start with a free consult. I don't charge anything to talk to me, right? You tell me what's going on. I determine if I think I can even help you to begin with.
Right.
If we both feel like this is a good fit, then I direct you, how do we start, right?
Great.
So when you go to my website, the first big button you see is free phone consult. Just click that and book it, and you get 15 minutes of picking my brain.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. I will see you next month, and we'll have another great topic. We got to figure out that topic.
Awesome.
We'll do
I
it.
can suggest something.
Okay.
So I'm launching a brand new simplified functional medicine plan, because a lot of functional medicine gets very complex for a lot of people, even for doctors. That's why a lot of doctors don't even want to begin it, because it's got a lot of complexity. But I have begun a simplified functional medicine program that makes it very easy to deal with 80% of the problems that the population has, such as fatigue, mild to moderate digestive problems, difficulty losing weight, difficulty sleeping, right? So some of those things are covered under my simplified plan, and I'm launching that next week. So
Perfect.
we can talk more about that, and I can explain to people what that involves. It just involves one single test, not a battery of 20 different tests. And that one single test gives us so much information that we can generally help 80% of the population about 90% of the time with that in just 3 to at most 4 months to reverse those problems.
That's it. That's what we're going to do.
So it's called the Health Restore Program, or Functional Medicine Made Easy, and that's what we'll talk about next time.
Sounds perfect. I love
All right.
it. Bye, Ralphie.
Right.
We'll see you next week, buddy. All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Veronica.
All right. Bye.
Have a wonderful night.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. I'm sorry it went long. It always goes long, but Dr. Wild has so much good information, and I'm really grateful that he's a regular on Vtalks because I learned so much. I think my brain hurts tonight. I learned so much. A lot of big words. But anyway, I hope you got something out of it. Again, if you want to talk to Dr. Wild, he will give you a free consultation at gethelp@drwildcanhelp.com, or you can visit him at his website at drwildcanhelp.com. All right. I hope all of you have a good evening, and we will see you next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock for another live Vtalks. Thank you. Bye.